And we're back. Okay. I stop as I'm about to leave the classroom, turning on the ball of my heel to meet Muto. He's holding out to me a couple of the worksheets we'd worked on during the day with his long, lanky arm. Would you mind giving these to Ikazawa? I'd normally ask one of the girls to do it, but I assume you'll be checking on her. For a moment I briefly consider the possibility that being more than an innocent prediction. I quickly discard the idea, though, as it's hard to think of him acting in such a Machiavellian way. Okay. It's not in his nature. Sure, no problem. Walking up the hallway of the girls' dormitory, several ideas of why Hanako has been absent float around my head. The most obvious of them is just a simple cold. That said, she may not even be sick at all. It's been almost a week since Lily left, and despite her at least appearing to be normal, I've suspected she's somewhat more insecure about it than she's letting on. Eventually I come to Hanako's dormitory room. Its simple brown door separating us. Her room's position next to Lily's is extremely convenient and probably a large contributor to their meeting in the first place. Grimacing slightly at the prospect of her being sick, I rap my knuckles at the door. Silence. I listen intently for any sound of shuffling coming from inside, but I can't hear a thing. I knock on the door again, slightly harder. Still no answer. How strange. A door opens behind me. A freckled and somewhat scrawny underclassman I don't recognize comes out and is briefly taken off guard by my presence. Hi. Actually, this may be a rather fortuitous meeting. Whoops. Hey, excuse me, do you know if Hanako has come out of her room today or not? She doesn't seem to be answering. Ikazawa's Ikazawa. Her not answering the door is totally normal. That tall foreign girl's the only person she'll ever talk to, after all. She gives a shrug before walking off down the hallway, having much more important matters to attend to than Hanako or I. Her dismissive attitude annoys me. Hanako must have a reputation as a hermit, a reputation that doesn't seem outright undeserved, at least in the time before we met. Scratching my head, I take one last attempt at getting Hanako to answer as I knock on the door one final time. Hanako, it's just me. Muto said to give you some stuff. For a while, the attempt seems just as unsuccessful as the last. Just before I slip the sheets under her door, though, I can hear the handle rattling. As the door opens halfway, I do my best to look Hanako over as quickly as possible, as a task made somewhat more difficult by her oversized gown hiding so much of her body. She doesn't look sick, or at least not immediately so. To be honest, I'd have preferred that to her expression right now. Hi, Hanako. Muto wanted me to give you these since you weren't in class today. I hold out the loose sheets, which she tentatively takes in her hands. The way she moves is weird, devoid of thought. It's if she's some kind of mechanical automaton rather than a living being. Are you okay? If you're feeling sick or anything, I could get the nurse. It feels almost pitiful to put on such a routine, get well soon act. I can't think of anything else I could possibly do for her, though. She seems to collect herself a little at the notion, but only a little. I'm fine. Okay. Oh, well, that was awkward. An awkward silence follows, yep. Eventually ended by her nodding solemnly in farewell and closing the door. The entire experience feels surreal. More than a little put off, I wander back to my room and hope that she'll be better by tomorrow, despite not knowing exactly what's wrong with her. Once again, I find myself in front of Hanako's door after another of her unexplained absences from class. Nothing. Considering this is the second day in a row she's been like this, I'm starting to worry about her. Summoning my willpower, I decide to try one last way to get her to respond. Hanako, if you don't say anything, I'll get the nurse for you. Go away. What? It's hard to tell whether her tone's one of depression, anger, or both. What in the world can I actually do to help her if she doesn't even want to help? The message is clear enough. I can't just leave her like this, though, just sitting in her room for days on end. Rubbing my temples in thought, I withdraw to my own room to think about how to proceed. Rationality is what's needed here, as an overreaction may just make matters worse. Don't you guys have, like, cell phones or anything? Like, couldn't you just text Lily and be like, yo, Hanako's acting really, strange. You know what's going on? I dig around drawer after drawer of my desk looking for where I put that damn piece of paper. Before she left, Lily told me the number to call her on, well, speak of the devil, and I wrote it down. Now that I need it, though, the damn thing is... here. Probably should have just entered it directly into my cell phone. Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect timing. Come to think of it, without further ado, I enter the numbers and anxiously press the call button. You're gonna call her? Wouldn't that be, like, super expensive? You're like on the opposite side of the world. The fact the phone rings at all shows that I got the prefix for a call to Scotland, right, at least. I've never made an international call before, so that's some comfort. Eventually the phone picks up, a feminine voice I don't recognize on the other end. It's probably Lily's mother. Yeah, you're not going to understand English. Suddenly finding myself unprepared, I realize I can't understand a word she says, either due to my limited vocabulary or her heavy accent. I should have anticipated this, since according to Lily, her mother is a native Scot. I soldier on in the hope that she might know some Japanese, considering it's her daughter's native language. Hi, it's Hazao Nakai speaking. An enthusiastic sound of realization can be heard as she recognizes the language. My feeling of release is immense. Ah, you must be one of Lily's friends from school, correct? Even so, her accent means I have to concentrate to work out what she's saying. Yes, that's right. Pleased to speak to you, Mrs. Sato. So nice of her to find someone so polite. Lily, dear, it's for you. Her mother seems nice, if a little over enthusiastic, given the mundane situation. There's a small silence as Lily takes her time getting to the phone. In the distance, I can just make out her mother scolding her playfully for just getting up. Hello, Lily speaking. Oh, you sound awful. She makes a sound somewhere between a dying animal and a yawn. The one thing I did remember to check before calling was the time zone. It'd be pretty late in the morning over there, so she really has no excuse. Not feeling well? I'm just tired. What time is it there? Late afternoon. School finished for the day not long ago. You're really not a morning person, are you? I don't need you making fun of it as well. It takes me a measure of restraint not to laugh at her pain groan, poor girl. How are you doing over there, bar the mornings? It's been enjoyable. After not meeting them for so long, just having a meal together with my parents is nice. Though the pool and the sheer size of the house might have something to do with that as well. Even if they're not in Japan, from the way it sounds, her family must be pretty wealthy to live so luxuriously. Are things all right with you and Hanako? Not at all. Damn, I was hoping that wouldn't be brought up quite so quickly. I take a moment to try and sort out exactly how to describe the situation without causing her undue worry, but she picks up on that without a word being said. Hanako's not well, is she? How'd you know? Because today is her birthday. I'd hoped she might have gotten at least a little better after coming to know you, but how is she right now? She missed school yesterday and seemed out of sorts when I checked up on her. Today she missed school again and just told me to go away. I've really got no idea what to make of it. Has this happened in the past? Is it related to her scarring in any way? Unfortunately so. Roughly the same thing happened last year when her birthday came up. As far as I can tell, it's because her parents died in the accident that caused her scarring, and Hanako blames herself for their deaths. Oh, it actually explains her scarring. Like, in Rinzero, did we ever get an explanation for her missing arms? Like, I completely forgot that, like, I completely didn't notice that the option to ask about her arms never came up until now. Yeah, we never got an explanation for them, did we? What she says does seem to make sense. If she's blaming herself on her birthday, she may well be ruining that she was ever born. The fact that Lily seems so in the dark about it, though, almost to the extent that I am, is a surprise. So that's why she lives in the student dormitories as well. Has she told you any more about the accident? As close as we've come, she's barely told me anything about what happened. What I know about it is largely conjecture. Ugh. She sounds depressed, almost defeated, considering the trauma Hanako must have gone through. I can't really fault Lily for not knowing. Nevertheless, she still seems to consider it a personal failing. Don't blame yourself, Lily, with everything she's gone through. I know. Thank you, Hazao. I'm sorry I can't be of more help to you. It's fine. I'll just give it some more thought. Thanks, and have a good time in Scotland. It's nothing. Thank you for taking care of Hanako. Okay, bye. Goodbye. And with that, the line goes silent. Amid the seemingly only increased number of questions I can't answer, the most immediate is what Lily was going to say. Oh no. I'm an idiot. She must have thought I was calling to talk to her, but I only asked for help with Hanako. Even more shameful than that thought is the fact that such an appraisal would be largely correct. Well, first things first. For now, I need to at least sort out Hanako and make sure that she's actually eating okay. The occasional passing student give badly hidden glances at the plate of food I carry to the female dormitories. It's hardly a meal to be proud of, only being an instant microwave meal from the convenience store, but it should at least fill her up. Eventually I arrive outside of her room, after having to ward off a couple of girls who jokingly tried to pilfer the food I'd taken so long to procure. I decide to forego knocking, since it was proven to be an utterly useless measure and it's somewhat difficult to do with my hands full. Hanako, it's Hazao. I know you're listening. I got some food for you. Silence, as expected. I'll leave it beside your door. Please eat it at least, okay? There, I've said my piece. Now it's up to her. Putting the plate down, I walked back to my own room to eat dinner. By the time I return to Hanako's dormitory, a good hour's passed. Thankfully, there isn't anything to be seen beside her door. I walk back at least somewhat happier that she's eating. If she intends to get through this by herself and being able to help, even if it's just in such a small way, is at least something. I sit reading in the library after school, turning page after page, barely registering the words written on each out of sheer boredom. With my cheek resting in my hand, I can't help noticing the slightly rough feeling against my palm. It won't be long before I'll need to get a razor. Giving up on reading, I simply let my head drop onto the book in front of me. Things have quieted down considerably since Hanako began attending school again. When she first returned to class, nothing was said nor done that wasn't part of the usual routine, and it's been the same way since. Neither of us desired to bring up her accident, so there simply wasn't any point in pursuing it. Thus a few days went by, the daily grind continuing just as it had before. It's only natural that my mind would wander to other places, and more importantly other people. The lily-shaped hole in the daily life of Hanako and I has been pretty noticeable for a while now. I'd be pleased to say that this has allowed me time to refine just what my thoughts on her exactly are, but alas, I've had no such luck. It doesn't help that my attempts to do so have led to the troublesome topic of Iwanaka. Every time my thoughts drift into that direction, I reflexively try to think about something else. Why did this have to happen now? I turn around and look up to the source of the tentative voice coming from behind me. No, sorry, I didn't mean to disturb anyone. That's not it. I glance around the orange-tinted room, quickly realizing how silly my apology must have sounded, and the time I'd spent thinking and lazing about in here, everyone's well and truly left. Library closing? If you don't want to go, I could keep it open a bit longer. It's no trouble at all. Oh, don't worry, I should get going anyway. Thanks. As I get up and begin to move off, I feel Yuko's eyes drilling into my back. Is there something wrong? You look depressed. Are you okay? Yuko nervously twists her fingers as she says this, unsure whether she's overstepping her boundaries or not. I really can't tell if she's more worried about my mood or about bothering me. Normally I just shrug it off and assure her that I'm fine, but my reflective mood gets the better of me. Despite being staff, she really doesn't feel as much like an authority figure as the others. It's just, I guess the best term for it will be relationship problems. Oh, I'm not too good with that kind of thing. My only relationship ended a bit abruptly. But if you want to talk about it, I could listen, I think. Now I feel kind of bad for bringing it up. She's not that old, though, so at least she has a good chance of finding another partner. It isn't like we're in a bad situation right now. We have spent many days together as friends, sometimes going out to do stuff, that kind of thing. But I'm starting to want to do more for her, learn more about her, and be with her more, but I'm not sure whether it's actually love or not, though, and our friendship as it stands is enjoyable. You shouldn't let that stop you. Sorry. How to say this? I think it's nice that you have a good friendship, but school is going to eventually end. Do you think you'll be fine with not knowing if it could have gone further after you graduated? I guess that's the crux of the problem. I really have no idea what the answer to that question is. Well, I really can't help there. What your true feelings are is something you have to decide for yourself, but I think if you do love her, you should definitely say something. After thinking about it really hard, I decided that even though my relationship didn't work out, it's still better that way than never knowing if it might have or not. I never expected Yuko to sound so wise. It only makes sense that with more life experience than I, she'd have a better idea about this. Well, I suppose not very much was actually answered. Talking to her has helped get it off my chest, and I have no doubt that I should confess if I really do like Lily. I give a slightly frustrated sigh. If only reading so much actually helped when it comes to situations like this. She gives a girlish giggle, which only reinforces my view of her as being different from their usual staff here. In the end, it all comes down to what will happen after school finishes once again. Considering what happened before I came to Yamaku, it feels like being asked to keep up with a field of runners despite having started from a dozen yards behind them. It's just one more motive to move on from the past. The last thing I need right now is to get caught up in that and getting homesick while I'm at it. Once again, I find myself calling Lily. My phone bill is going to be horrific, exactly what I was thinking, considering this is international. But it's worth it. I don't only want to smooth over her feelings from last time I called. I genuinely want to talk to her again. When the phone finally picks up, I easily recognize the voice on the other end. Hello, Mrs. Sato. May I speak? Damn, I've forgotten how the rest is supposed to go. It's not encouraging to forget such a small amount of words, even if I didn't spend that long trying to memorize them. May I speak with Lily, please? Oh, hello again, Mr. Hisao. Are you teaching yourself English? Just a little. I don't think I'm too good at languages in general. Oh, don't say that. Your pronunciation was good. I'll get Lily for you. Just wait a moment. I obediently wait as she goes off in search of Lily, the other end going silent. Eventually a much more awake-sounding Lily than last time answers, the time over there being past noon by now. Hizao, are you there? Yeah, I'm here. Hi. Good afternoon. Sorry for taking so long. I was outside in the garden. Gardening? Unfortunately, I found I'm no good at it, so I just smell the flowers. I think my fingers appreciate it more. I take it Hanako's recovered a bit. Yeah, I just made sure she was eating, and eventually she read it herself. Thanks for the help of the other day. I don't think I was really that much help. The main thing is that she's better, though. True. How's life over there, then? It sounds like you've been living in nothing short of a mansion. I wouldn't call it a mansion. But it is rather large, is obviously what she wants to say, though modesty stops her. I'm a little envious, but it is her holiday. It's a nice house to stay in, though. There's a beach near here, too, which Akio is especially fond of. She's a swimmer. She's constantly dragging me there to have swimming competitions, which she wins every time. Lily doesn't strike me as very athletic at all, so not being adept at swimming seems logical enough. The fastest I've ever seen her move is her understandably relaxed pace during her walks to and from the suburbs down the hill to the school. From the school, it makes the image of her swimming hard to imagine. The beaches there must look nice. They'd be less crowded than the ones around here, at least. Indeed, Akio says the area around here looks beautiful because it's so far outside the city. I only realize what I've said after I say it, but it doesn't bother her at all. It's still easy to forget that she can't see when she's not. It's still easy to forget that she can't see when she's not around, despite the time we've been friends. That said, the local accent sometimes makes communication a bit hard. It's a constant reminder that this isn't home. All the fact that she doesn't consider her parents' residence to be her home makes good sense. It makes me realize that I can't really answer whether this same goes for me. Graduation from Yamaku is distant enough to be difficult to view objectively, and I've spent so much time in this small room, I've come to accept the dormitory as my new home, surprisingly enough. I guess that would be hard to deal with. Is your knowledge of English holding up? Thankfully, I may be fluent, but being in a position where I have to use it often helps in curbing my Japanese accent, so it's been useful practice. I hear you're trying to teach yourself English. Well, more like memorizing a few lines, and failing even at that. I'm really not cut out for learning another language. My admission of defeat draws an amused giggle. I believe that there are things one chooses to do in life, and also things that are chosen for one to do in life. You can take comfort in the fact you're better than me in science and math, at least. All that's helped in is making me Muto's star student. I wouldn't worry about it. They're useful skills for many jobs, right? That's what he tells me. His face invariably lit up when I said I'd probably go on a career involving either. We both share a warm laugh at the events that have befallen each other on opposite ends of the world. It's nice and reminds me of our simple small talk that I've been missing since she left. As each of us waits for the other to begin speaking, I decide to push ahead with my feelings. I can feel my throat tightening slightly. I miss you. The silence in the other end of the phone tells me she's given the words their due weight, but as it goes on, I can't help but feeling more and more apprehensive. Thankfully, the silence ends almost as quickly as it had begun. I miss you too, Hizao. Goodbye. Okay. Goodbye, Lily. Once again, the phone is hung up, simply and without any further ado. That was pretty sudden. That light, tentative, almost shy voice, her warm and soft tone, I'd simply be lying to myself if I were to say that I don't recognize this feeling for what it is. With thoughts of Lily dancing on my mind, I started anticipating her return. Today has been a most excellent day. God, there's been a lot of these transitions so far. I sit listening to another of Muto's long-winded lectures, my mind wandering far from the scribbles on the dirty blackboard. Since I called Lily, my mind's been drawn in two directions. Both roughly lead to the same conclusion. I started to feel oddly detached from my past life. It's only been a month and a half since I arrived here, yet the school's become a second home. I've gained new friends and contacts, managed to get to grips with the school's lifestyle and culture, and become accustomed to the quirks of my classmates. To become used to a school where disabilities are the norm, rather than a rare exception, still catches me off guard sometimes when I think on it. The same school that's populated by burn victims, amputees, the blind, the deaf, and all manner of disabilities in between. If someone had described this school to me before I'd come, I'd have shrugged it off as an overactive imagination. Even when I first arrived, I felt like the Dutch coming to this strange new land for the first time. It's amazing how quickly one becomes so used to the environment they're forced to live in, really. And now I've even found someone that's got me entirely smitten. What a strange life. Before my mind can wander any further, though, I found a page of lined paper slipped under my distracted face. The garish, bright pink ink has no doubt been penned by Misha. Don't look so bored, He-chan. School's nearly over. 3-day holiday. Alright, we get Sunday and Monday off. Can't complain about having less school, I suppose. I uncap my pen and scribble on a page before covertly passing it back to her, flicking my eyes to the front of the class every now and then. Muto continues scrawling away, arcane equations and formulas on the board. I'm guessing you have something planned? Misha takes the paper back and hunches over it comically, even for her, with her tongue poking through the side of her mouth. Did she misinterpret my expression as depressed, and is she trying to cheer me up? Student council work with Shi-chan, of course. You're still brooding over that, surely? Well, you're not still brooding over that, surely? But He-chan could have helped us, poor lonely girls. I'll lend you a hand for today if I weren't going to be so busy. Oh, naughty He-chan. I'm just going to meet Lily with Hanako. I don't know what you've got going through your head. So Lily's back. Yeah, she's coming on the evening flight with her sister, so she'll be back in school next week. As she takes a note back and begins to write, I look up to see an unwelcome sight. While I frantically try to silently catch Misha's attention, Muto confidently strikes through the gap between the desks and from the front of the class, his intent gaze focused directly on her. She suddenly stops writing as his tall figure casts an impossibly long shadow over the page. He silently takes the piece of paper from her and begins to read. Sweating bullets, I quickly glance around the class, noting their complete silence. Of course, it would just have to be the one thing that actually gets their attention during class. After a scant few seconds examining the page, he rolls the paper up in a small tube and lightly pops Misha over the head with it. Half an hour until you can hop off to the student council. I think you can hold on until then. Misha's face cracks as the entire class erupts into laughter. He might well be awkward, but he knows how to handle her excellently. I'd probably feel sorry for her if I weren't as busy stifling my own laughter. Such a weird-looking outfit on her. Is that one it? No, I think that's some foreign airline. And so the third aircraft they're not on comes into land? For the past half hour, we've been whiling away the time with small snippets of pointless chatter. Lily and Akia's flight has been delayed, and at this rate, it'll probably be dark before their plane arrives. Is that one it? Nope, the company colors are wrong. Hanako's eyes flutter left and right, following the trickle of people in and out of the huge glass doors ahead of us. Fortunately, nobody pays her much heed, their attention apparently directed towards greater things. Maybe that one is it. No, I think that's... Hold on a minute, I think that might be it after all. Still takes some more time before the billboard changes their flight status to disembarking. A loud yawn sneaks up on me, not allowing enough time to stifle it. My sleep patterns have once again been all over the place, likely due to a mix of worrying about Hanako and the side effects of my medications. Who's that over there? I look to Hanako, then follow her gaze to the airport door. Oh, Lily, they're here. Really? We all call out to each other in greeting, quickly shuffling over to the side to avoid blocking the passage of others. Lily. Hanako jumps forward to hug Lily, a wide smile on her face being all that's needed to see her happiness at Lily's return. Lily simply smiles in return, her voice soft. It's wonderful to see you again, Hanako. As the two give each other a hug, well-deserved after all that's happened while she was gone, I turn to Akia. Yo, you're pretty late. Yeah, there was a really bad storm over the airport. We got drenched just going from the car to the door. Guess you'll appreciate the weather here more then. Welcome back, you two. You too, Lily. Hanako breaks off from Lily as I speak. For a long time, neither of us says a word. Contrary to what I thought her homecoming would be like, the atmosphere feels awkward, almost stifling. Both of us try to guess the other's feelings, not quite sure about what should be said. Damn, this is exactly what I feared when I thought of trying to move things forward between us. Lily runs her hand through her fair hair and awkwardly twirls one of her bangs in her fingers, clearly trying to think of how best to react. Eventually, thankfully, Lily gives a small sigh and breaks the silence. Thank you, Izao. It's been nice to be back. Are you okay? You look tired. Evidently not recollecting herself all that well, she quickly waves her hand in front of her face to stave off any concern Hanako may have had over her. I'm okay, really. It's just a bit of jet lag. Weak. You don't have any? She simply gives a big grin, puffing out her modest chest. I feel absolutely fine. That's not fair. Ah, well, you shouldn't take too long to get rid of it. Ah, that's right, Izao. Yeah? Don't we have a holiday from school soon? I'd have forgotten if Misha hadn't reminded me this morning. We got a 3-day weekend starting from tomorrow. Akila playfully bumps her elbow lightly into Lily's side, grinning. Told you we wouldn't miss it. You have something planned? If neither you nor Hanako are busy. I've got no plans, so something to do would be appreciated. Hanako? No, nothing. That's good. I was thinking we could go to my family's summer house for a bit of quiet over the break. We've rarely used it recently, though, so we'd have to dust things off while we're there. Oh, where is it? Up north in Hokkaido. The place is practically deserted, so it should be a nice quiet break for you guys. You're not coming? No, I got a little holiday of my own set up with my boyfriend. I lower my eyes at her, suspicious of her intentions. Sounds like we're just cleaning up the summer house for you. That's perhaps a valid conclusion. Both of us zero in on Akira, her face somewhat evasive. Looks like we were right. This is the convenient bonus, really. Me and the guy left it in pretty good condition last we were there, I promise. Now then, I'm out of here. Already, Akira. She quickly turns and walks away, her hand held high. See you in a few days, guys. Lily and I can only sigh at our hasty retreat. It does sound like it would be a nice place to go. Lily gives an enthusiastic nod, taking her carry bag in one hand and placing her other on Hanako's shoulder for guidance as we begin to make our way to the taxi area. After the fracas, let's just say it's pronounced fracas, of the past few days, spending a weekend in the country alone with her and Hanako sounds like a dream. The more I think about it, the more sure I am. This will be the right time and place to confess my feelings to her. Drink time. The morning chill wraps itself around my shivering body. I huff into my cupped hands to desperately try and stave off the cold as we mill about on the station platform. Lily's clothing looks rather ill-suited for the temperature around us. I can only hope it's indicative of what she expects the weather to be like at our destination. Damn it, Lily, why do we have to get here so early? Unfortunately, the train schedule is against us. The next train to Hokkaido is at 2 in the afternoon. Great, just great. I pause at a moment to wipe some sleep out of my eyes, and Lily promptly takes advantage of the opening. Cheer up, Hazao. Once we get there, it'll be much warmer. Why not just take the bullet train? A normal train's going to take hours to get us there, so we may as well take the Shinkansen line as far as north as it goes and just switch at the end. There's a certain charm to older trains, wouldn't you agree? I agree. I'd agree if I weren't freezing in the morning cold because we decided to take one. I'm sorry, Hazao. Why are you apologizing? Sorry, what for? I was the one who suggested taking a normal train. Oh, wait, make me feel guilty. All I can do is sigh and cover my face with my hand. It's fine, I'm just grumbling. My, Hanako, you need to shoulder all the blame yourself. Even without your suggestion, I'd have still opted for the same thing. Thankful for the quick interception from Lily, I take a quick gander around the station. Aside from us, the train platform's all but deserted, the morning dew settling on the empty benches. I guess no one else was masochistic enough to brave the very early morning. Though if someone was, they'd more than notice the huge bags both Lily and Hanako brought with them. Just what did you pack into those things anyway? The bags? She pauses a moment and tilts her head in thought. A change of clothing, raincoat, underwear, sleepwear, a number of books. I think that's most of it. You make it sound as if I'm unprepared. You brought less? Underwear and a pack of cards, that's it. And my pills, but never mind that. No pajamas. Oh, damn, I knew I forgot something. As I ruffle my hair in frustration, Lily sighs. They'd be clothes you could use there. Akira still occasionally goes there after all, and I think some of our parents' clothing is still in storage. I don't think there'll be any problems with you borrowing a set of pajamas if need be. Thanks, still I don't mind just sleeping in my normal clothing. For 2 days? Good point. Not really, though 2 days would be borderline. It's more than looking even a little like a slob would be unacceptable while in the presence of 2 girls. As we leisurely talk in the station platform, an announcement sounds from the loudspeakers, loudly heralding our ride's arrival. Looking past Lily and Hanako, though the train's still well out of sight, a quick check on my watch is enough to see that it's the one we'll be taking. The 5:30 train was ours, right? Correct. Either of you want me to take your bags? Mine's not exactly heavy. My, that's very gentlemanly of you, Hazao. Don't accept too reluctantly now. As I bend down to pick up Lily's large bag, I look to see Hanako picking up hers. You fine with that? A silent nod's the only answer. I'm starting to get the feeling that by the trip's end, I'll be able to count every sentence she said on one hand. With the morning landscape passing by the window and the occasional rattle of the train bumping the carriage around, I try to focus my attention on the aging playing cards held in my hands. I'll raise you 5. She scrunches her face up and leans over to Lily conspiratorially, the two exchanging a few whispered words. Considering how often this has happened so far, I'm coming to doubt Hanako's grasp of how to play poker. It doesn't seem to disturb Lily's reading, though, her hands flitting over the page with only occasional corrections to account for the train's bumping and rocking. My collection of chess pieces that we're using as chips is steadily growing anyway, so it doesn't really bother me. Looking around us, our carriage is almost empty as the station platform we waited for the train itself. Our carriage is almost as empty as the station platform we'd waited for the train itself on. Only a handful of people can be seen, looking mostly like tourists and couples on holiday. While the two continue their less than clandestine strategizing, a small boy looks over the seat and stares at me. Hoping he doesn't begin to stare at Hanako, I simply give him a wave and smile. Thankfully, he retreats back to his seat after finding me far too boring to waste his attention on. I'll see you and raise you another 5. Damn, you got me. I fold. I've been bluffing, and she's caught me. Hanging my head, I push over a large portion of my winnings. Hanako looks absolutely delighted, and even if Lily keeps her attention focused on her reading material, I can see the smirk on her face. They're both extremely pleased. For a moment, I try to work out what Lily's reading, but the cover is too faded to read beyond the fact that Roman letters are on it. A pity I can't read the braille above the printed title. What are you reading, Lily? The title looks like it's in English. That's right. It's And Then There Were None, an old British story. I can read it to you if you'd like. She extends the offer with a grin, obviously in jest. I think I'll pass, thanks. After a seemingly endless trip, we reach the promised land of the Sato summer house. Even after the train trip, the walk-up seems to take forever. Despite my grumblings, though, I'd have never guessed the sight that would be in store for us once we traveled that long deserted road. It looks more like a farmhouse than the everyday house I'd imagined, small in size and surrounded by trees and bushes. And long grass everywhere. It looks like there's weeds, too. Can we get rid of this? That looks like a mess. That looks like a big mess. An empty expanse of wheat fields and farming land can be seen as we walk up, the fencing only consisting of rickety old wooden planks. It really drives home how far we are from the major cities, and is a sight that feels antithetical to the environment I grew up in. The only thing that doesn't surprise me is its western styling. Wow, it's amazing out here. It's wonderful. Oh, my ear is itchy. Oh, that's nice to hear. While Akio may have said that she'd kept the house in reasonable condition, I was worried that we might have different standards of reasonable. Looks like there isn't another soul for miles. I thought Akio would be the type to keep to the city. Lily furrows her brow in thought, seemingly recalling almost forgotten knowledge. From memory, there's a small town not too far ahead. Other than that, though, it's just old farmland. Akio and I stayed in our parents' house, which was in the nearest city, for a while, but after they left, we decided to move into a smaller, more easily maintainable house. To find a place like this in Japan nowadays, it's kind of anachronistic. Well, this town does have quite a bit of history. I looked down the street one last time before getting back to the task at hand. Shall we go in then? I'm parched. It was a long walk to get here. Lily gives an enthusiastic nod, the three of us lugging our bags into the house. As soon as we set foot inside, Hanako and I start looking around, taking in every detail of where we'll be staying for the next few days. All the artifacts of another's life stopped in mid-motion are around the house, such as the television guide lying beside the counter it was on, and pans in the adjoining kitchen still sitting on the stove. It was a strange feeling, really, as if we stepped into Akio's life for a brief moment before leaving in a couple of days just as we come. Of course, the more mundane reality is that she just hasn't cleaned up after herself that well. Where should we put our bags? I'll show Hanako our bedroom. You can put yours here if you like. You mean I don't have the same bedroom as you two? Hanako flowers into a full blush as Lily takes her cheek in her hand. Oh my, how bold. You too. Hold on, if I'm to leave my bags here, where will I be sleeping? Well, seeing as we lack a guest bedroom, the convertible futon, huh? Oh, sorry, Azao. I sigh, lamenting my place on the bottom rung of sleeping location priorities. I guess there's no other choice. Lily leaves to show Hanako to their bedroom, so I take a small tour of my surroundings after I drop my bag on the floor. Kitchen, just like the living room, is fairly modest. The rustic nature of the wooden furnishings drives home just how far we are from civilization. Returning to the living room, I decide to try out the television until I get back. With a touch of the remote, it immediately flickers to life, apparently set to a news channel. Almost flopping down from exhaustion rather than sitting, I lay back and watch. And watch. And watch. And then fall asleep. Oh, it didn't do a transition. So, I quickly blink to wake myself. myself up, Lily and Hanako having returned minus their bags. From the Hokkaido night sky visible outside the windows, it looks like I drifted off to sleep. Looking to the wall-mounted clock, it's already 10. You found the television, then? Yeah, it really does feel nice and homey here. I'm glad you like it. You were already out like a light when we came back after unpacking our things, so we didn't have the heart to wake you sooner. Judging from her giggle, I must sound funny when I sleep. I swiftly decide not to inquire. There's some dinner waiting for you in the kitchen. Hanako gives a deep yawn, only just remembering to cover her mouth at the last second. My, are you tired? I didn't get much sleep last night. I'm pretty tired too. It was a long walk up here and it's getting late. If that's the case, I suppose we should retire for the night. Good night, Hazao. Good night. Night. With that, they quietly turn and walk back to the bedroom. Rubbing my eyes, I sigh. I wonder if I'll be able to get back to sleep after being woken up. I suppose I'll eat something and watch some more TV quietly before going to bed. Oh, there it is. Is he still sleeping? I think so. I'm not. I am, however, incredibly tired. It's getting late in the morning. I know that. He likely stayed up to watch television. I could hear it from our bedroom. Only because I couldn't get to sleep. Should we wake him? Don't do that, Hanako. Please. No, we should leave him. I doubt he'd want to be woken early if he didn't get much sleep during the night. Thank you, Lily. Besides, he sounds so peaceful. It'd be a shame to wake him when he's like this. Keep a straight face, Hazao. It's nice she cares so much, though. Hanako, could you go to the fridge and fish out what's needed to make lunch? Alright, just the vegetables and rice? That should be enough. We only need something simple as we can eat in town later. Hanako's footsteps on the carpeted floor can be heard moving away from the living room. As they do, I feel Lily's hand gently resting on my chest. It takes a titanic effort not to react, but something about her makes me think she knows I'm awake. A long silence passes. The only thought in my mind is of that gentle outstretched hand laying upon my chest. After an indiscernible amount of time, Lily withdraws her hand. Good morning, Hazao. Conceding defeat all too easily, I prop myself up and rubbed my eyes. How'd you know? Your breathing was off. Well, that makes sense. She couldn't have needed that long to work it out. Knowing her hearing, she likely knew before laying her hand on me. If you want to sleep more, you should really go to bed earlier. I heard the television going long into the night. Oh, sorry about that. My medications have been interfering with my sleep for a while now. Even if I'm tired, I have trouble actually sleeping. I'm sorry for bringing it up, Hazao. I sigh. This is the kind of thing I wish others wouldn't do. Create a new save. This is the one I'm probably going to mess up on because I don't know what to say here. I'll just address it. Come on, you worry about me more than I do at times. It just means I have to sleep a bit longer, that's all. But still. I'd say I look absolutely fine, but I guess that wouldn't have a lot of meaning for you. She gives a sigh of consternation before trailing off an amused chuckle, giving up the point. If you say so, please do take care of yourself, Hazao. Go on, Hanako could use some help. She moves to protest, but reluctantly acquiesces and disappears into the kitchen, her hand running along the smooth white walls as she slowly walks. For a while I sit and watch television in an attempt to wake myself a little more, but it's futile. I don't have anything better to do, so I follow Lily's lead. As I round the corner, I see Hanako and Lily, backs turned, quietly cutting food on the granite-colored counter. I am temporarily engrossed as I watch Lily guiding the knife down carefully with a finger on the cabbage she's cutting, each slice delivered slowly but with precision. She seems a little slow, but considering that she can't see what she's doing, it's a small wonder she can cook at all, let alone for both her and Hanako. Hi, Hanako. Lily, want any help? Is that Hazao? Oh, morning, Hazao. Lily jerks back in surprise before turning around, her yelp immediately jarring Hanako and I to her side. What's, Small trickle of scarlet falls down from her pale fingertip, the knife having cut just enough to draw blood. With the television's sound masking my footsteps, she must not have noticed me coming. To compensate for having to use touch to guide everything she does during cooking, she must need to pay extra attention. Lily. Don't worry, Hanako, it's just a small wound. You should still get a band-aid on it. At least until it stops bleeding. First aid stuff should be in the bathroom, right? I think so. Will you be okay in here, Hanako? I've found how little heed she's paying to herself as Hanako gives a quick, almost automatic nod. It's fine, I can keep making lunch. An awkward silence reigns as I set the bottle of antiseptic and a box of band-aids on the side of the sink. Lily's fingers held out for me to treat. The lid of the bottle comes off with minimum resistance, and a small ball of cotton I soak in the liquid stains a pale green. Okay, hold still, this'll probably hurt a bit. She gives a small nod as I take hold of her hand to steady it. With all the tenderness I can muster, I gently bring the dampened wad to the small red line. Ah, what? I barely touched it. Oh, sorry. I give a sigh, both at her reaction and to settle my own nerves. Her pain tolerance is startlingly low. I would tell you to man up, but I can't really do that. As she gives a small giggle, I take advantage of her momentary distraction and gently press the cotton against her finger a few times. Thankfully, it's enough to do the job. We both settle somewhat as I bring the band-aid over the tip of her finger, covering the wound while making sure not to get it stuck to her fingernail. There, finished. You can move now. Taking her hand from mine, she gently claps it to the other. Thank you. It's no problem. It's the least I can do after causing you to hurt yourself, after all. She lowers her head slightly at the apology, absentmindedly rubbing her hand in what seems to be embarrassment. I don't really mind. Her answer doesn't seem to make much sense, given that what happened is pretty clearly my fault. I can't help grimacing at her, despite the fact that her dainty smile still holds. She mustn't like being reminded of the limitations of her lack of sight imposes on her. It's something I can't possibly fault her for. I've fallen prey to the same kind of feelings before, despite my condition not being nearly as ubiquitous in my life. Neither of us any the happier. We head back to the various smells of the cooking food coming from the kitchen. I lay out the plates of food, steam slowly rising from the well-cooked rice and curry dishes, while Hanako lays out the cutlery. Knife one side, fork on the other, Western. How perfectly fitting for someone like Lily. As we take our seats, taking careful heed of the dark red tablecloth hanging below our knees, Lily emerges from the kitchen. In her hands are 3 glasses and a bottle of wine. As I recall our previous run-in with that devilish elixir, I hide my face in my palm. Alcohol? Seriously? She pauses as she reaches the table, a playful grin perched on her face. Akio specifically gave permission to take the bottle from her collection. Not only does she give alcohol to minors, she even lets them pilfer their own. The perfect model of responsible adult, Akio is not. More to the point, though, is that this is hardly a meal deserving of alcohol. I'm starting to think Lily is the type to easily become hooked on things. Oh, that's not really the problem. I don't really have any qualms with it, but didn't you have a bad experience with it last time? Last time was likely due to drinking too much, so a single glass shouldn't prove a problem. Think of it as a learning experience. I can't recall many learning experiences that made me feel rotten before putting me to sleep, but I'll take your word for it. She dips an uninjured finger inside to feel the liquid level, tip against the bottom as the liquid rises up. The white of her finger almost seems to glow as the sunlight hits it, the delicate outline blurred and refracted by the glass. Jeez. Her fingers are definitely longer than mine, the kind I'd think more suited to a pianist than a teacher. She'd likely have done well if she'd learned how to play. We quickly dig into our meal, forks and knives clattering against plates. None of us are particularly eager to speak while eating, Lily altogether too reserved for such a thing, Hanako probably too shy to start a conversation, and I too busy savoring the food. Such a pedestrian activity, eating together at a table. It seems so utterly normal, yet it makes me realize how long it's been since I've done something like this. Just the 3 of us sitting around a single table, eating as if we were a malformed family. Maybe this trip, as far away from everything as it were, was worth it. It takes quite a long time, but eventually we all finish our surprisingly filling meal. The wine, thankfully, has little effect given we've only had a glass or 2 each. I slump back into the seat, rubbing my stomach contentedly. I'm stuffed. Lily pats her mouth with a napkin, only twice, and with evenly timed intervals in between. It's hard to tell sometimes whether how she acts is a well-trained routine or a well-rehearsed act. I think I must be as well. Did you like it, Hanako? It was nice. Now that we're well fed, shall we be off? Off? Where? You weren't privy to the discussion between Hanako and I earlier. I get the impression that she's having a subtle dig at my sleep again. We'll be going to the town nearby. I guess I should have expected 2 girls to take a holiday as an excuse to go shopping, no matter where on the planet that may be. I am interested to see more of the north, though, so this can only be a good thing. Sounds good. How long's the walk in, then? It's supposed to be a mile to a mile and a half. Nearby, huh? Great. Just great. And we're going to end there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.